I'll let you know. Thank you.
You bet. Yeah.
We are live, Madam Mayor. Apologies. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, councillors, officers. Before we start our proceedings this evening, I think that what we would all want to do is to pay our respects to His Royal Highness the Prince Philip, Duke of Edinburgh. So could I ask for a minute's silence, please? Thank you.
Madam Mayor, that's a minute's silence.
Okay, thank you all very much for that. And I would like to report to all present that I have sent a letter of condolence to Her Majesty the Queen on behalf of Nuneaton and Bedworth Borough Council. But before we move further into the meeting, Councillor Jackson, I understand you wanted to have a few words.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Very similar to yourself, I want to pay appropriate respects on the sad loss of His Royal Highness Prince of the Duke of Edinburgh, and indeed, Madam Mayor, in doing so, I'm sure our hearts and thoughts are with the royal family who at this time are grieving the loss of a loved one. Many of us will remember the Duke's work in regard to the Prince's Trust. And I know when I was mayor, and I'm sure when other people have been mayor, we've witnessed firsthand the benefit of that trust's work to the people of Nuneaton and Bedworth. So, Madam Mayor, with humble respect, the Labour Group would like to pay its respects in regard to this sad loss. Thank you very much, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Jackson. Councillor Wilson.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. I would also, on behalf of the opposition, the Conservative Party, like to offer our condolences to Her Majesty the Queen and the rest of the royal family. I think that we have to remember that at the heart of this, it is a family which is grieving, and a wife who has lost their husband after a tremendous amount of 73 years of marriage. And I think anyone would be hard pushed to not be humbled and saddened by that. And I think it's also important to note that the Duke, through his work with the Duke of Edinburgh Award Scheme, has touched many lives across Nuneaton and Bedworth, and that he was a man with a keen intellect and was a true reformer and innovator. And I think we could see that to the very last, Madam Mayor, with his own bespoke designed hearse on Saturday, with the Land Rover carrying him to his final resting place. What started off as a tongue-in-cheek comment to his wife, that ended up being a fitting tribute to a man of longevity and service to our nation. So I pay tribute to the work that he did, and he'll be a tremendous loss to Nuneaton and Bedworth and to the nation, but most importantly to the Queen.
Thank you, Councillor Wilson. Councillor Sargent, did you wish to speak?
Yeah, I just wanted to add our condolences to the Queen and the royal family. I think pretty much everything's been said, so I'll leave it there. And thank you very much. Thanks.
Thank you. I appreciate that Councillor Condacourt does not have a formal group, but Councillor Condacourt, did you wish to make any comments?
Yeah, very briefly, thank you, Madam Mayor. I just wanted to mention the Duke of Edinburgh Awards, because obviously, as a keen environmentalist and someone who liked championing young people being responsible and having new lives, I think the Duke of Edinburgh Awards was a great tribute to him. And quite often walking the countryside, we used to see people taking part in the Duke of Edinburgh's Awards. So I think in paying tribute to him, I think we should remember a lot of the work he did over such a wide area of our society. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Condacourt. So to continue with the meeting, I'm not going to read out the whole of the meeting protocol. I think we all know it by now, but the meeting will be conducted in accordance with the virtual meetings protocol, and I will, during the course of the meeting, be looking to take a few breaks throughout the meeting, perhaps just for 5 minutes every now and then, to allow members an opportunity for a comfort break. So item 2 on the agenda is apologies. Do we have any apologies? Rebecca, we obviously have none.
No, I'm not aware of any, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Rebecca. Item 3 on the agenda is the minutes of the previous meeting, and you may all be aware that earlier today we were sent some new minutes because there had been an omission from the set of previous minutes. Is there are there anyone wishes to make? Do we agree the minutes are of true and correct record? Currently, just 1 moment.
Move that, Madam Mayor. Barry Longden.
Okay, thank
With the
you.
amendment, of course.
Seconded, Councillor Jackson, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Evans.
Yes, thank you very much, Madam Mayor. I wish to raise a discrepancy in the minute CL39A, which can be found on page 20 under the Housing Revenue Account Budget and Capital Programme 2021-2022. At that meeting, Councillor Wilson proposed an amendment to the HRA budget, and the amendment is not included as part of the minutes. The Local Government Finance Act makes it very clear that such amendments have to have a recorded vote on them, and those recorded votes have to be printed in the minutes by law. So I'm afraid I do not believe the current minutes as proposed are legally binding, and I would therefore request that these minutes be redrafted and be brought back to either annual council or full council in July. Thank you.
Can anyone give me any advice about the points that? Yeah, will be investigated, Councillor Evans, and the minutes will be brought back to a future meeting. Thank you. Moving, are there any further items to be raised from the minutes? Can we therefore agree that they are a true and correct record, other than the point that has been raised by Councillor Evans? Is there anyone who, I will look for anyone who may not wish them to be agreed, based on the fact that they may well be brought back to a future meeting. Councillor Walmsley.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to ask how we can agree them to be a true and accurate record if they are obviously not one. And I'm sorry, but I can't agree minutes that we know are factually incorrect, even if they may come back at a future date. I think it's important that Council approves documents that are to be approved. And I think, as Councillor Evans has pointed out, this document is not in a position or fit to be approved. So I will not be therefore supporting that. And I don't think we can, given you've accepted that they are to be corrected, don't think we could be able to vote upon them on that basis.
Thank you, Councillor Walmsley. I will support the points that you have made. My apologies for asking for them to be agreed as a true and correct record. Moving on to agenda item 4, which is declarations of interest. We have the list of declarations of interest. Does anyone have anything that they might wish to add to what we already have here in front of us? Councillor Golby.
Thank you, Chair. It's actually to take away the my published interest of employment because they are no longer valid. So it's just to bring that to the council's attention.
Okay, we'll make sure that they're removed, Councillor Golby. Councillor Jane Sargent.
Hello, Madam Mayor. Yes, just to let you know that it wasn't done till after these have been printed, so I know it isn't a mistake. It's just that I haven't let anybody know, but I've actually, I'm no longer on the board of directors of Volunteer Friends.
Okay, we'll make sure that that is amended from the declaration of interest. Thank you.
I'll follow it up with an email as well, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Yes, well, that would be appreciated, please, if you could. Okay, moving on to announcements. I have no announcements at this meeting, having already made one, but I understand, Councillor Jackson, you wish to make an announcement.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As is our usual custom, I wish to place on record Council's appreciation of the hard work and efforts of those councillors who are not seeking re-election this year. Our longest serving member is taking a well-earned break, Councillor John Glass. John was first elected in 1984. During this time, he has served in a variety of roles, being Mayor of the Borough, Deputy Leader, a Cabinet Member, and more recently he has served as the Chair of the Internal Overview and Scrutiny Panel. John has always approached his role with determination and sought to make the lives of people in our borough better. Our thanks to John. Councillor Pomfret was first elected to the Borough Council in 2012. He has represented Barpool throughout his time. He previously served as a Cabinet Member and we wish him a happy retirement. Thank you, Gwyn. Councillor John Beaumont also joined us in 2012 representing Bulkington. He has served in different roles on the council, including currently being the Cabinet Member for Planning. And our thanks to John. Councillor Sarah Doughty also joined in 2012, serving and representing the residents of Exhall. She has served in different roles and we say thank you to Sarah. Councillor Barry Longdon is another who joined in 2012, who has decided to take a well-earned rest. Barry has been Mayor of our borough, a Cabinet Member and more recently Chair of the External Overview and Scrutiny Committee. Our thanks to Barry. Councillors Gizane, Daffin, Brindley Edwards and Gran all joined us in 2016, representing Galley Common, Heath, St Nicholas and Slough respectively. We do thank Daniel, Georgina, Catherine and Seb for their service to the people of Nuneaton and Bedworth. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Jackson. Councillor Wilson, did you wish to add any comments?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. I would also like to place on record the appreciation and thanks of the Conservative group for everyone's contributions. Whilst we all come from different political backgrounds and viewpoints, it is important to recognise that regardless of our differences, we actually have many things in common, which is a conviction of service and public duty, and to actually recognise that every moment that we spend in these meetings is a moment away with our families, our friends and our loved ones, and we do so because we want to make a difference for the areas that we're elected for. So regardless of any differences and disagreements I may have had in the past, I wish everyone a successful retirement or new journey or new beginning and hope that they make it a good one. Thank you very much, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Before I bring Councillor Longdon in, Councillor Sargent, did you wish to comment?
Yeah,
Okay.
sorry about that. I couldn't get off mute. Yeah, just want to pass on my thanks to everybody that's helped me along the way. When I first, obviously, I've only done the one term in the borough and the one term in the county up to now. Just want to thank John Glass for his guidance when I was the deputy chair of the internal overview and scrutiny. Dan Cassane, I spent quite a bit of time, mostly at the county actually, on different issues. He helped me, I helped him, and we got a couple of good results. So just want to say thank you to everybody. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Councillor Sargent. Councillor Condicord, do you want to say anything?
I'm happy to echo the comments of others. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Condicord. Councillor Longden.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I wish it be recorded that I disassociate myself from what Councillor Wilson was saying. I will not accept platitudes from that man or his group, or in fact the independents. So if that could be recorded, thank you very much. I do feel very bitter towards them, and I will not accept anything that they put because I don't believe them for 1 minute.
Thank you, Councillor Longden. Councillor Glass.
Yeah, thanks, Madam Mayor. I think I'll be a bit more generous and thank everybody, because I don't think there's anybody left in the council from when I first started. And obviously, I'd like to thank all the councillors over the years, officers, and of course the good people of Bedworth, Heath and Poplar Ward. My thanks to one and all. Cheers, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Glass. Thank you. Right, to move on to item 6 on the agenda, which is public participation. I believe the first question that is to be asked is from Mr. Samuel Margrave. I believe this is being read by yourself, Frank.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes. The question from Mr. Margrave is as follows. At the last council election, the Labour group promised not to charge for green bins, and then almost immediately after voters had gone to the polls, slapped a £40 charge on residents for green bin collections. Council elections are really important as we choose who will best represent us as residents and give a voice to our local community at the town hall. How will the council build trust in what candidates promise and stop any impact on voters to turn due to apathy when there is an expectation, like in 2018, that some candidates will fail to keep clear promises to local people? Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Jackson, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Mr. Margrave, for your question. As you will be aware, since 2010, under Conservative Prime Ministers, councils up and down the country have been subject to major cuts in revenue support grant and the general austerity that has been inflicted upon us. Many councils have faced making very difficult decisions, and Nuneaton and Bedworth has not been immune to this. It is also worth noting that the Conservatives of this council have not sought to eradicate this charge in their latest budget proposals. Indeed, other Conservative-controlled councils have introduced charges in regard to garden waste. Labour will continue to secure the best possible services for residents while setting prudent budgets. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Jackson. Question 2 is from Michelle Condicord. I believe, Michelle, that you are asking the question yourself.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Residents on some of the developments off the long shoot are having serious issues with rubbish, etc., being dumped in the no man's land between the two fences that separate the various developments. For example, between Davidson's Heritage View and Bellway's Royal Park developments. It seems that no one is taking responsibility for what will be an ongoing situation. Why is the council not helping residents when they have allowed this ridiculous situation to arise? And will the council ensure that no future applications are allowed to leave unmanaged gaps between boundaries? Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. Councillor Beaumont.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm working, isn't it? With respect to the permitted schemes referenced in the question, it is acknowledged that there is some land between the two schemes which is being described as no man's land. When determining a planning application, the local planning authority has to determine the application within a boundary that is submitted by the applicant. This boundary can often overlap with different landowners, but is effectively absent from the legalities of ownership. There is nothing to compel the applicants to deal with the piece of land being referred to in the question. Therefore, when the authority received and determined those applications, they could only reasonably consider the application boundary that was submitted. When considering the application, the council had to consider whether the application was acceptable in planning terms, which in both these instances, the applications were deemed acceptable, subject to planning conditions and contributions. While this has resulted in the reference no man's land, there is nothing that we as the local planning authority can do to prevent this. Investigations reveal that this land is in separate private ownership, and it is the responsibility of the landowner to deal with accumulations on their land. It sounds like a ransom strip to me, but I really can't go beyond what I've been told to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Beaumont. Question 3, Carl Mayor.
Sorry, Madam Mayor, can I request that that matter be referred to the Scrutiny Committee? Because I think it is important we discuss these ransom strips.
I'm not sure that we can refer it.
Yes, we can.
Pardon? Yeah, that is possible, Councillor Condicle, but you will need a seconder to do that. Is there a seconder for that proposal, please?
I'll second that, Madam Mayor.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Beaumont. Yes, it will be reported to.
No, you need to take a vote.
Any dissension?
Oh, sorry. Anyone opposed to Councillor Condiscourt's suggestion? I see no dissent, so that will be forwarded to internal overview and scrutiny committee. Okay, moving on to question 3. Mr. Mayor, I believe you are reading this one, Brent. Yeah.
I am, Madam Mayor, thank you. Mr. Mayor's question is as follows. Given the local elections are a couple of weeks away, could the leader of the council tell the residents of Bedworth Town the 3 things that you are most proud of that have started and finished in the town since you became leader of NBBC between May 2018 until today, 21st April 2021? Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Brent. Councillor Jackson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Can I thank Mr. Mayor, for his question. One of the pleas I received over many years, and particularly from Councillor Bill Hancock's, was that we provide temporary accommodation within Bedworth for people who sadly find themselves homeless. Homelessness is awful on so many levels, but having been able to provide such high quality accommodation at Spitalfields House is something I really welcome. It means that getting children to school is easier, having access to wider family support is less difficult, and a central Bedworth location makes many other activities easier too. We have built on our new council housing programme and completed an innovative modular housing development at Pine Tree Close in Bedworth, now called Centennial Close, with 6 new 2-bedroomed homes and 4 one-bed apartments. Lots of people are waiting either for their first house or indeed need to move because they are overcrowded. It is really fabulous to see real new provision, and this programme will continue giving more people the family homes they need. I should of course say that that while investing in new council houses, we are also continuing to invest in our existing stock, and many have improvements going on each year. In Bedworth, since May 2018, 81 new kitchens, 56 new bathrooms and 272 new heating systems. We have set aside £100,000 to pump prime the transformation of Bedworth Town Centre and have approached Tory-controlled Warwickshire County Council to do the same. We are committed to take up opportunities for grant funding for Bedworth Town Centre and beyond. We have undertaken works at Bedworth Market, including a deep clean and installation of new units. We have been awarded £154,000 from the British Cycling Places to Ride scheme for improved facilities at the Miners' Welfare Park. And let us not forget, we have managed to progress Bedworth Leisure Centre to REBA Stage 3, well on the way to giving us new and improved facilities that we can all enjoy. As we all know, this pandemic has impacted us all. The Civic Hall is currently not able to be used as an entertainment venue, and so I was delighted to approve its use as a mass vaccination centre for use by the NHS. Free parking at the weekends is currently in place, as well as after 3 p.m. in the week. Reduced market rents, helping market traders in this difficult period of recovery. Madam Mayor, I could go on. The questioner asked for 3 things I was most proud of, but clearly Bedworth and its future success is not bound by only 3 things. We need to look at a variety of measures that will see Nuneaton's sister town thrive for years to come. The ambitious strategies in place around our parks and open spaces, alongside town centre regeneration and more localised high quality services, will ensure our children and successive generations will continue to be proud to call Bedworth their home. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Jackson. Mr. Lubbs Setkovich, is this...
Again, it's for me, Madam Mayor, to read out. Thank you. The question is as follows. At the full council meeting dated Wednesday, 16 September 2020, I asked the leader of the council why £5,000 allocated by the ruling Labour group in their budget for VE Day 75 celebrations had not been spent, and suggested alternative uses for this money supporting veterans charities. The leader of the council assured me the money would be made available in the 2021 budget. However, this money has not been made available in the current budget. Can the leader of the council explain if this is down to poor budgetary planning, that she's been able to live up to her promise, or if she has deliberately misled myself, the public at large, and her fellow councillors? Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Jackson.
You're muted, Councillor Jackson.
Thank you. I believe I'm now unmuted.
Yeah.
Apologies. I knew it was going to happen at one occasion during the evening. Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you for your question, Mr. Setkovich. The budget is available in the current financial year, and we will consider how best to use it as we progress through the roadmap for easing COVID restrictions. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Question 5, Mr. Brian Walmsley. Oh, sorry. Councillor Evans, I am only taking public questions at the moment. I really, I don't take speakers from public questions and answers. Thank you.
But it's a point of order, though.
Pardon?
It's a point of order, though, in the same way that you allowed Councillor Kandaka to speak about 5 minutes ago.
The only reason Councillor Kandaka spoke was when I spoke to him. Ask you a question, Councillor Evans, because your point of order, Councillor Evans.
Yeah, I don't have a question. I've been banned from asking questions tonight. Yes, I think that Mr. Chekovic raises a very important point about the line that was put into the budget and obviously hasn't been spent. As such, could I move that this matter be referred to the internal overview and scrutiny panel in order for the panel to investigate this matter further? Thank you.
Second that, Councillor Walmsley.
Is there a second? Councillor Walmsley. I'm not taking any further speakers because that was a point of order and not a public statement. I'm going to, but I spotted hands coming up and I'm not taking further speakers. Thank you. Right. I have a proposer and a seconder that this particular issue be reported to Internal Overview and Scrutiny Committee. Is there any dissent from that for that proposal? I currently see no dissent, so that will take place. Question 5, Councillor Walmsley. Is this you, Brent?
It's from Mr. Brian Walmsley, actually, Madam Mayor. So yes, and it is me to ask the question on his behalf. The question is as follows. Is it correct that Nuneaton and Bedworth Borough Council are the only national council to receive 100% of funding applied for with respect to plans for the Nuneaton Town deal, and will hopefully gain 100% of funding applications for any Bedworth plans? Can the leader of the council please confirm the situation? Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Jackson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Mr. Walmsley, for your question. 101 towns were invited to submit a town investment plan. 52 town deals have been announced to date, and Nuneaton and Bedworth Borough Council are one of only 6 councils from the town deals announced thus far that have received 100% of funding, some £23 million. Of course, this is in addition to the £1 million advance to convert unused retail space to small start-up business units and the £13 million that we received from the Future High Streets Fund. While the Borough Council is not in a position to state the percentage level of any funding it will receive, every effort will be made to maximise the level of funding it may receive for Bedworth, as was the case for Nuneaton. We will continue to aim high for both our towns and build on the tremendous success we have shown in regard to securing regeneration monies as we move forward. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Jackson. That concludes the public questions. We will be moving on to agenda item 7. Which is the special urgency decisions. As you are well aware, they are only questions that can be asked, and you will receive a response, but there will be no debate. Councillor Condacle.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. Just on the health and wellbeing strategy, I'm really surprised that this came up as special urgency, as this is a strategy that's been prepared over a long time. Can the Cabinet member explain why it came up as a special urgency measure and not in the forward plan? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. I believe that is Councillor Beaumont.
Yes. Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think the answer lies in the written words "final" within this piece of work. Because it's the final draft, it needed approval so that it could begin to be worked on by departments within the Borough Council in order to progress work. And I think there are some deadlines involved in some of the work that's going to be done. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Beaumont. I don't seem to have any further speakers on the special urgency item. No, so could we then please move to agenda item 8, which is the cabinet proposal. Councillor Jackson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As usual, I present this report. It is in written form, so members have seen it. Myself and or cabinet members will be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Councillor Jackson. Does anyone have any questions that they may wish to ask on the cabinet report? Councillor Hancock.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Madam Mayor, if you'll allow me, I have two questions. One to the leader of the council and one to, I think it will come under Councillor Ian Lloyd. Do you want me to do them separately or read them out together and then get the answers?
I'd prefer you to read them together, please, and then get separate answers too.
Okay then, Madam Mayor. On the first one, in regard to the leaders to the cabinet report, could I ask the leader of the council in relation to the part about the West Midlands Combined Authority? For a long time, Madam Mayor, I've lobbied, if that's the right word to use. I've not got any money for it, but there you go. I've lobbied on many occasions in favour of electric vehicles and tram provision, and particularly extending from Coventry into Bedworth and onto Nuneaton if possible. Does the leader of this council agree with me that if the county council was under the control of a Labour administration, we would be much more likely to achieve this, as well as ensuring the residents of Nuneaton and Bedworth could obtain cheaper and free rail travel, as do residents in the West Midlands Combined Authority full members areas currently do? Thank you, Madam Mayor. My second question, which Madam Mayor I think will be to Councillor Lloyd, and it follows on from the question that was just asked by Mr. Mayor. So following on from Mr. Mayor's question to the leader about improvements to Bedworth, could I ask Councillor Lloyd what comments he would have on the fantastic improvements that have been made to Bailey Park? They were largely achieved by the Bede Ward councillors working very closely with the Old Collycroft Residents Association. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Hancock. Councillor Jackson, do you want to answer the first of Councillor Hancock's questions, please?
Thank you. I totally support the views that Councillor Hancock has expressed in regard to the benefits that we would receive if Warwickshire County Council were to join Transport for the West Midlands. This would give us, in my view, a far more frequent and cheaper public transport offer. Any of us who travel into Coventry and use Coventry's buses will know that those services are very frequent, and actually that bus fares are considerably lower than they are in our own town. But also I'm hoping that we can maximise any opportunities from electric buses that Coventry are going to have, and indeed there is every possibility, I believe, that decision of the West Midlands Combined Authority could benefit Nuneaton and Bedworth if we grasp those opportunities firmly. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Jackson. Councillor Lloyd.
Thank you, Chair. Just get my camera on. Thank you very much. Yes, in answer to Councillor Hancock's his question, Bill has been working along with his ward colleagues with the Collycroft Residents Association, and between themselves, the association, local people and the council, we've obviously achieved putting in place a community notice board. They've also developed a 1 mile walk. created a new environment friendly footpath through the natural area. And of course, with all that going on, they've also built a new mugger, multi-use games area, and put a zip wire in, whilst renewing and maintaining the children's play area and rose gardens. All that has been achieved by working together. That's the local authority working with the ward councillors and working most, seriously with the local residents association in Collycraft. All I can say, it's not my doing, it's ward councillors doing, and the parks doing, working together. So I'd like to congratulate all of them. That's how you achieve things. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Hancock. The next speaker is Councillor Evans.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. I would like to ask a question to the portfolio holder for housing in relation to item 2B, which can be found on page 2 of the addendum, which is the housing revenue account and capital budget 2021 and 2022. And I wanted to ask a question to the portfolio holder with respect to some of the parts in the HRA about home improvements and trying to make homes more environmentally friendly. With specific reference to the government's Green Homes Grant Local Authority Delivery Funding, in a statement made by the portfolio holder on the 15th of February, in a response to a question from Mr. Lee Downs, the portfolio holder stated MBBC submitted a duplicate bid concentrating on just the MBBC area, but this time it was not awarded. There is no evidence to suggest the bid was not correctly submitted. On the 5th of March, the Parliamentary Under Secretary of State at the Department for Business, Energy, Industrial Strategy issued a letter to Craig Tracy MP regarding the council submission to the department. The minister stated, whilst the Nuneaton and Bedworth Borough Council bid scored adequately for strategic fit and delivery, it was deemed ineligible under the value for money assessment due, since assessors were unable to determine the total amount of capital funding being requested, and so further clarification was sought from the local authority, further stating, unfortunately, the cost provided for capital spend by Nuneaton and Bedworth Borough Council within the cost breakdown table did not match the total amount of capital funding for the local authority had requested. This meant the assessors were unable to determine the correct figure to base the assessment on. In light of what the government minister has stated about the council's application submission, does the portfolio holder still believe that, and I quote, there is no evidence to suggest the bid was not correctly submitted? Thank you.
Thank you. Excuse me. Councillor Watkins.
Yes, thank you, Councillor Tandy. Madam Mayor, sorry. Thank you, and thank you for the question, Councillor Evans. Yeah, I still stick by what the officers said. Bit appalled, really, that you're actually questioning the way our officers put in for funding, especially being the amount of funding that we've had over the past few months. And I will stick by what the officers said earlier. All of the way. If you can give me any evidence that the officers did not do their job, then send it to me and I will get you a fuller, a more detailed answer. Thank you.
Point of personal explanation.
Yes.
I am not questioning the integrity of our officers. I am questioning you as the portfolio holder responsible for housing and who should have had the final sign off for this application to the government. A government minister is contradicting what you said. Are you therefore accusing a government minister of lying? Because that would be a very serious accusation, Councillor Watkins.
Listen, Councillor Evans, if you can make what you want of what I say, I've just told you that I stick by everything that our officers said in their original question. And I stick by that then, and I stick by it now. That is my final answer.
Thank you for the clarification. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Watkins. Excuse me. Councillor Condacourt.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I've got two questions for the Leader of the Council. I'll do them together. Firstly, on the Treasury Management Strategy, which is the 10th of February, item 2C, can the Leader of the Council tell us how much borrowing is now going to be required for the hotel, which was approved at planning yesterday? Because that's obviously a very large amount of borrowing that we're going to have for that. And secondly, on item 5, which is the West Midlands Combined Authority again, I totally welcome the electric buses coming to Nuneaton and Bedworth from Coventry. We started working on this about 2 or 3 years ago as a green group at the County Council proposing it. And my understanding is that all the buses from Coventry to Nuneaton, which are National Express, will be electric buses, because it was actually a joint application between Coventry and Warwickshire, with Coventry leading on it. So can the Leader confirm that that I'm correct, that it was actually a joint Coventry and Warwickshire bid, and that all the National Express and hopefully the Stagecoach will be electric? Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Carry on. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, sorry, I thought you were seeking advice. The borrowing requirements for the Hilton Hotel, I'm sure we can get figures when they are available and feed them back to Councillor Condacor in due course. In regard to electric buses, we are hoping that routes between Coventry and the Borough of Nuneaton and Bedworth will indeed get electric buses. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Can I have a point of clarification on that answer, Madam Mayor?
Right. Sorry, Councillor Condacor, you had a point of clarification.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify if the Leader knew that we were going to start borrowing now the planning permission has been approved, or whether that was conditional on something else. So the question about the Treasury was, do we now need to start borrowing effectively? Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Madam Mayor, I think I made it very clear that when those details are available, they will be forwarded to Councillor Condit.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Golby.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to raise a follow-on point from Councillor Hancock's, which is in reference to the West Midlands Combined Authority and the comments made by Councillor Jackson that relate to the Warwickshire County Council aspirations of the Labour group for running Warwickshire County Council. It was mentioned in a council meeting at Warwickshire that was broadcast to the public sometime, well, a couple of months ago now, that for membership of the WMCA, we would actually have to hand over all our highways budget and control of our highways, and also all our adult training budgets. So we would have no control over managing our own highways or managing our own adult training facilities. That would actually cost many millions of pounds. So when
you ask your question.
Yeah, the question is, do you understand the consequences of the comments that you've just made relating to the Labour group running Warwickshire County Council? Because it doesn't actually seem like you've got a grasp on it.
Councillor Jackson, do you wish to reply?
Yes, Madam Mayor, I wish to reply as a member of Nuneaton and Bedworth Borough Council. I'm not, at this moment in time, a member of Warwickshire County Council. I'm very clear that I am here as a borough councillor, and the Borough Council is on record of urging Warwickshire County Council to join West Midlands Transport. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Thank you, Councillor Jackson. I have you down next, Councillor Evans. Do you wish?
Can I have a follow-on question, please, then, Madam Mayor?
Yes, go on.
Well, the follow-on question will be, if you're representing yourself as a borough councillor in one breath and a potential county councillor in the next, can you make up your mind? Because the conversation that the question asked by Councillor Hancock's was actually answered with aspirations of Warwickshire County Council, and that was mentioned. So that's what I'm asking for clarification on. Are we discussing Nuneaton and Bedworth Borough Council issues, or are we discussing party political broadcasts for Warwickshire County Council?
Madam Mayor, I've been very
thinking. Go on.
Sorry, I've been very clear that this evening's meeting is a meeting of Nuneaton and Bedworth Borough Council. We can have aspirations as borough councillors for transport provision in our area, and that is precisely what I've expressed. We are urging Warwickshire County Council to join West Midlands Transport. Madam Mayor, I've nothing to add, and I'm certainly not getting into party political point scoring in this meeting tonight.
Madam Mayor, can I have a follow-up question,
Councillor Golby, you have had 2 responses from Councillor Jackson. I have further speakers.
The question is, do you understand the financial consequences?
I am not going to allow members to continue to ask questions when they have had 2 opportunities to do so and have had replies. I have further speakers. My next speaker is Councillor Evans. Councillor Evans, can I ask you, is your question different to the one that you asked previously?
It is, but I'm happy to give my allocation to Councillor Golby because it does sound like she's got a...
No, Councillor Evans, I'm calling you. If you have another item that you wish to raise other than the one that you have already raised.
I don't think that's fair because Councillor Golby hasn't finished.
Councillor Evans, do you wish to speak or not?
Yes, I do, when Councillor Golby has finished what she's got to say.
In that case, you obviously don't want to speak. I'll call Councillor Wilson. Thank you, Councillor Wilson.
I haven't asked my question yet.
I've raised a point of personal explanation.
I'll take your point of personal explanation, but I will not be pushed into doing anything that is out of order. Councillor Golby.
My point of personal explanation is that if you are lobbying another authority on behalf of Nuneaton and Bedworth Borough Council that has significant financial impacts, not only for that other authority, but for the residents of Nuneaton and Bedworth Borough Council area, do you understand the consequences of what you are lobbying for?
That's not a point of personal explanation. It's another question.
I'm explaining the question that I'm trying to raise.
Another question, Councillor Golby.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Evans, do you wish to ask your further question?
I do now. Councillor Golby is finished. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, I wanted to raise a question in relation to the combined authority item on the report. I'm seriously concerned by the comments which are being made by Councillor Jackson this evening, and I think it's very much a bombshell moment. And we can say it's an aspiration that Warwickshire County Council joins Transport for West Midlands, but by saying that, you're also saying it's the council's aspiration that we hand over Warwickshire's highways budget over to the combined authority.
Evan, could you ask a question, please?
Yes.
Could you please ask your question? This is
which would entail us handing the Warwickshire highways budget over to the combined authority in Birmingham. Obviously, the leader of the council. This is my question. This is my question. Yeah, this is my question. But you can't ask a question without giving a preamble.
Yes, you can ask a question without going into debate first. Could you ask your question, please?
So my question is, obviously, the leader of the council represents the Nuneaton and Bedworth Borough Council at the West Midlands Combined Authority board meetings. I think we need to know as a council, has the leader approached the mayor of the West Midlands to support her plans, and has the mayor of the West Midlands been told that? Because I think such a proposal, a policy proposal come from the borough, would need consent of full council, and we have not given consent to that. Thank you.
Jackson,
I'm finished now.
To reply, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This council has approached Warwickshire County Council in regard to this matter, as Warwickshire County Council currently have responsibility for highways matters. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have two questions for the leader of the council, if I may. The first one is to the leader, but arising out of an answer from the portfolio holder for housing and communities, in that he said, and I quote, that it was an answer from officers and that we were questioning officers' answers. Is the leader of the council, with ultimate responsibility for all executive functions within the Constitution, satisfied that cabinet members are giving answers directly from officers and passing them off as we saw tonight, officers' answers, when this should be a member-led and member-responsible authority? My second question is to the leader of the council as well, in her capacity as a borough councillor for Wembrook, although it could end up being her county council position for a Bedworth seat at the same time, is she satisfied from a borough council perspective that if her proposed policy, as stated at borough council, for us to enter the West Midlands Combined Authority or to lobby for us to enter the West Midlands Travel Authority, would result in losing all of our control and say over the budget for highways, even though that is substantially raised by taxpayers' residents in Nuneaton and Bedworth? Is she satisfied and prepared to accept that there would be a lack of democratic oversight and control over the hard-earned money of taxpayers in Nuneaton and Bedworth for her ideological perspective of handing everything over to the West Midlands Travel Authority, which will be based in Birmingham, not in Nuneaton and Bedworth, or indeed in our home county of Warwickshire? Thank you very much, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Jackson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Answers that Cabinet members give in regard to questions asked on occasions will require professional, technical advice to be given, but it is Cabinet members that answer questions. In regard to the benefits of joining West Midlands Transport, I think I've outlined those in answers to several questions this evening. So there is a parliamentary convention, I think, that the Prime Minister often says, I'll refer you to the answers given previously, and I'll do that again to Councillor Wilson. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Jackson. Councillor Longdon.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This has got to the point of being ridiculous now. The report itself, the Cabinet report itself, speaks about the full business case for Coventry Electric Bus City under the phases 2 and 3. Oh, sorry, phase 2 of all electric bus town. Now, it's perfectly logical, perfectly reasonable for us to actually want to join in with that.
Could you ask your question, Councillor Longdon, please?
Yeah, I think I do have to answer some of the things, ridiculous things that are being said, because all
is to Cabinet members, Councillor Longdon.
I know it is, Madam Mayor. I don't want to argue with you, but the rubbish that's been coming from the other side deserves to be answered. And it is rubbish because it's nothing to do with this. They're just making it up and trying to trap the leader into making some sort of comment that's detrimental to herself and to this authority. And quite frankly, that's not on, and it's ridiculous. Now, can I ask Councillor Jackson, as I've got to ask a question, if she's happy with that situation, or will she continue to push for Warwickshire County Council to join or try and join West Midlands Transport? Thank you.
I will repeat to Councillor Longdon that we have urged Warwickshire County Council to consider that course of action.
Thank you, Councillor Jackson. Councillor Walmsley.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As is the question to the Leader of the Council, as is incumbent upon all of us to uphold truth, and that is something that we should all value in public life. Given the answers that we've had this evening, can she confirm, does she have full confidence in the portfolio holder, Councillor Watkins, And given the discrepancy between his answers and that of a Minister of the Crown, will she refer him to the Audit and Standards Committee so that a full investigation can concur as to who was telling the truth? Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Walmsley. Councillor Jackson.
I have full confidence in Councillor Watkins, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Jackson. I have no further speakers, so we will move on to agenda item 9, which is the council timetable. I am aware that it has been amended relating to an audit and standards meeting and a planning applications meeting. So, Councillor Jackson, would you like to move the report?
Yes, Madam Mayor, I'm happy to do so with the amendments as indicated.
Thank you. Is there a seconder for the report, for the proposal?
I'll second that, Madam Mayor. John Bowman.
Thank you. Councillor Condacourt.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. I raised a few issues with the calendar cabinet meeting, and one of them was the planning application meeting that was going to be the day after the August bank holiday. We always have difficulty taking part in planning meetings and getting information from officers when they're the day after a bank holiday, and also it causes difficulties with the planning committee arrangements because the paperwork has to go up that much earlier. So I'm pleased that that one's been moved back a week from the August bank holiday to the 7th of September, but I do not understand why they all haven't been moved back a week, because now you've got 2 weeks between planning committees, which obviously means that the planning department can't then put paperwork in for that one. I also raised the one after the May bank holiday planning committee meeting, because we're going to have a ridiculous week on the 2nd of May being a bank holiday, 3rd of May being a planning committee, and the 5th of May being the local elections again. So can I ask that the timing of planning committees is moved so that actually we don't have them on the day after the bank holiday, and they are equally spaced so we don't have a 2-week gap. Thank you very much, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Jackson, did you want to reply?
Madam Mayor, we took full account of the comments that Councillor Kondaka raised at Cabinet. It is always very difficult to try and accommodate all of the difficulties around a calendar, particularly around planning applications, which does meet so regularly to spread out the workload and ensure timely decisions. We've come up with this, Madam Mayor. Nothing is ever 100% perfect, but I believe this is aimed to do the best it can in these circumstances. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Jackson. Councillor Evans.
Yes, thank you very much, Madam Mayor. There's 2 things that I would like to raise first on the addendum. The meeting of the licensing committee on Wednesday, the 7th of July, doesn't indicate the location of that meeting where it's scheduled to take place, and the local plan committee scheduled for the 17th of November. Again, the location and time isn't included on the addendum, at least that I've got printed in front of me. In terms of the timetable more generally, it is my view that the council actively discriminates against local people who have full-time jobs, in that those individuals struggle to attend scrutiny panels, licensing committees, planning applications, etc. And I make specific reference to our scrutiny panels, which are there not only to ensure that we as local councillors can adopt and change policy, but also for local residents to come in to be able to scrutinise as well. So I believe that the meetings at 5 o'clock are simply not on, and I'm afraid that our timetable does not look anything near to what the timetables are elsewhere across Warwickshire. Indeed, every meeting in North Warwickshire starts at 6:30 in the evening, which I think is more than fair to allow local residents to get back to meetings if they want to attend them. In light of the comments that I have raised, I would like to move an amendment, as I do every year. So I'm sure it'd be no surprise to members, but I'd like to move that every meeting, with the exception of the planning applications committee, be moved to 6 o'clock. I always get asked why I don't consider calling this item in when it comes to cabinet. The very, very simple answer to that question. I'm afraid that the scrutiny system in the Nuneaton and Bedworth is woefully inadequate. Scrutiny just doesn't exist on the scrutiny panel, so there's no point bringing something forward to the scrutiny panel, because I'm sure that Labour councillors will be whipped to vote a certain way on that panel. So there's no point bringing it forward, because scrutiny just doesn't take place. But it's our responsibility as full council to approve it, and that's why I'm raising this amendment now. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Evans. Is there a seconder for that proposal?
Second that, Councillor Walmsley.
Thank you. Are there any further speakers on this item? Councillor. Oh. Pardon? Yeah, just a minute. Oh. Right, we're now speaking on the amendment. So is there anyone wishes to speak on the amendment? Councillor Pomfret.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As Councillor Evans has mentioned, he raised it elsewhere, which is the proper place to do it. I don't think it's the proper thing to do to change arrangements which affect people in quite a deep way at the last minute in an unannounced way. I don't think it's a good idea to have all meetings starting at the same time. I'm sure Councillor Evans is aware of this, but hasn't taken into consideration different people have different working arrangements. In fact, some people have working arrangements which involve looking after other people, and being out at 10 o'clock at a meeting might suit them. I don't know whether people can understand why I'm saying that. And the other thing is, of course, many people start work at 10 o'clock, and the later meetings start, the shorter time they're going to have to do whatever they have to do and get to their place of work. So it might suit people whose work finishes at 6 o'clock, whatever it might be. But lots of people don't have nice jobs like that. They are working shifts or whatever, and sometimes they have different shifts on different weeks and different days and so on and so forth. So 3 things: don't raise it now, it needs proper discussion. Secondly, having the times all the same is not going to suit people, and we should leave things as they are. Thank you. If there needs to be any changes, I think they should be done in a detailed way throughout the year, starting as soon as possible.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Pomfret. Councillor Wilson.
Yes, thank you, Chair. It's interesting to hear Councillor Pomfret's comments that moving the start times to be almost universal across all the committees, and he shouldn't have his camera on, by the way. That's part of the protocol if he's so insistent on it. It is quite interesting, Madam Mayor, because we have that position now, yet he is arguing against that very position himself about not having a uniform start time, because we do more or less have a uniform start time. Planning starts at 5, internal starts at 5, external starts at 5, audit and standards, I believe, starts at 5, even though I'm not on it. The only other 2 are licensing, which quite frequently gets cancelled, is at 6, and of course tonight full council, which starts at 6 too. So it is an odd argument to make about not wanting a uniform start time when that is exactly what we have now. I think we also have to be very cognizant of the fact that over the past 14 months or so, as a result of the pandemic, that we have actually seen an increase in people watching the democratic processes online. And you see quite often more democratic interaction, certainly I do when I'm looking at social media, post 6 o'clock. And most people are still travelling back from work around about the 5 o'clock time. So we are leaving a great chunk of our population and communities and residents out of being able to participate in the democratic process. Where I do agree with Councillor Pomfret is that I think he was more or less saying that you've got the old adage that you can please all of the people none of the time and some of the people all of the time. And that is true, and I don't dispute that. But you do have to try and find a happy medium for when we start these committees. And I think that is what Councillor Evans is pushing for and has done previously, and I've spoken for in support previously too, that we need to try and enable as many people as possible to participate, and moving it by an hour in the grand scheme of things to 6 o'clock gives people just that little bit more time to be able to either attend full council in person or log on to the laptop. Actually, I find, Madam Mayor, logging onto the laptop to get into a council meeting takes longer than it does to drive down to the town hall, get through the door and into the chamber and get set up. But once I'm in the chamber, in the committee room, I'm in the committee room. It takes a while for people to get ready, Madam Mayor, and Councillor Evans is quite right. Giving them till 6 o'clock allows just that much more time for people to be able to participate and be involved and observe what we are doing, because people are interested in what we are doing, and we should maximise the possibilities for them to do that. So I support the amendment, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Wilson. Councillor Brown.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I too support the amendment. For purely practical purposes, Councillor Evans makes some very valid points. It is true that people have different working patterns. I myself have worked shifts in the past and work different pattern today. But you only have to look at the traffic on the roads at around 5 o'clock to know that that is the busiest time of the day generally for people travelling. And at 6 o'clock, there is less traffic. So it's therefore self-evident that if we wish to encourage greater public participation and attendance at meetings, and bear in mind that within a few months we will be back in the town hall and the chamber, so people will have to travel to meetings, then if we wish to make it as easy as possible for people to attend, for the most people, then 6 o'clock start is preferable to a 5 o'clock start, because if nothing else, getting to the town hall is a lot easier. So from that sort of point of view, it makes absolute sense. From an environmental point of view, it even makes sense. If somebody's journey is quicker and less polluting, it's come at a better time of day. And the fact of the matter is that whilst there are different working patterns, the vast majority of people do work in a fairly standard time of day between sort of 8 till 4, 9 till 5. You can see that with the traffic on the roads. So by having meetings that start at 6, it means that people do not have to leave work early to attend a meeting they may be interested in. And it means that they can have more time to prepare, as Councillor Wilson has already very eloquently said. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Brown. Councillor Condacore.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. When I was first, in the early days being a councillor, we had lots of different scrutiny meetings, and they all start at slightly different times. And when I was a leader of a group of 3 at the council, my members of my group chose which scrutiny committee they went on, depending whether it was the 5 o'clock, I think it was 5 o'clock, 5:30 and 6 or something, the housing and the health and the, and I think it is really useful to start them at a staggered time, so that those members who cannot make 5 o'clock can select to go on the scrutiny committee that meets later, whereas those members who actually like an early night can start on the scrutiny that starts earlier. The second point I'd make is quite often an issue is also people attending from the officer corps, and it may be worth, as we get new technology, allowing officers who only need to be there for a small item at a meeting potentially to go to the meeting virtually. Obviously the members may need to be there physically. But if we're asking for, say the cemetery policy, we don't need an officer to be at work all day, go to a scrutiny meeting starting at 6 and wait till 6:30 or 7 for their slot if we can use some of this new technology. So I think we should be looking to the future, having a range of starting times and using technology so that officers don't need to wait in at the council house from their working day until whatever time their item comes up. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Condicle. Councillor Glass.
Yeah, thanks, Madam Mayor. I shall be voting against this because there's an assumption that everybody's got cars or a motorbike or whatever. There's if you're living in Exhall or Hawkesbury or practically anywhere, and meetings go on to 12:15 at night, like there's a possibility this may do tonight, how do people get back in public transport? They can't. They're living in a different world from anybody else. It seems strange to me as though they seem to think that, as chair of the internal panel, there was a comment made that councillor was sure that the members of the Labour Party were whipped in the internal meetings. I can't remember a time for years and years and years when we've ever been whipped in order to do anything. So I'm afraid it's one of these things is that they seem to think that everything revolves around the motor car and people can get back and forward. If you're wandering about the streets waiting for a bus at 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock at night, depending on what time the council meeting finishes, I think that puts people in jeopardy, and I'm afraid I shan't be voting for this, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Glass. Councillor Lloyd.
Thank you, Madam. Thank you, Madam Mayor. So I can get my camera on. Well, I'm going to mention something that's just been mentioned by Councillor Condicott. Looking to the future. That's what we should be doing. You know, at the end of the day, here they are again, proposing something on the hoof, on the night, not taking it through the formal process. They've had this information now for quite some time. They could have said, look, we've got a problem with this. Let's get it to scrutiny, have a relook at it. Look, at the end of the day, people are on different shifts. For example, if I was working the late shift when I was working, I'm retired now, so it doesn't bother me what time of night, but it does bother other people that have got jobs. If you work in the late shift, 6 o'clock at night, 5 o'clock at night, you're going to be at work. You know, if they really want to look at accommodating or trying to accommodate everybody, then maybe we should look at all the timings of the meetings and mix them up. Or let's do it like the county council do it. They're quick, and you know, to say how it's done in other local authorities. Well, what about the county council? How do they meet? What time do they meet? I'm not saying that's right, but I've got to be honest. You know, if I'm on a late shift, then a 10 o'clock in the morning meeting or a 2 o'clock in the afternoon meeting might be better. So all I'm saying is let's don't do this on the hoof just for political gain, or just because some of their members may not be able to make the times, because I think that's what it's really about. You know, let's do it properly, and let's go and look at all the times, look what other authorities do in Warwickshire, and look at, you know, adjusting the times so, you know, everybody gets a bite of the cake. They say about the public, they turn this about the public. The public are on the same shifts, you know, that councillors and other people that work. They're on the same shifts, you know, so it doesn't wash what they're saying about the uptake of watching it on social media, because most people may be at work that want to watch it of a night time. They could be on nights, they could be on a late shift, you know, so it's the same, you know. The NHS, you know, you look at that for an example, they're all on different shifts. A lot of people are on different shifts. So it's not something we can do on the hoof just because I believe some of their members can't make it.
Thank you, Councillor Lloyd. Councillor Llewellyn Nash.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay. I'm one of the people that just simply can't make the meetings, as Ian Lloyd has wonderfully described about myself. Thank you. I became a councillor, obviously, to represent my constituents and my local area. I've worked all through COVID at the hospital that I work in, and I have work shifts. But as people are leaving and people are changing, I found that incredibly hard over the last year, as you may have realised, when I've had to have replacements. And this doesn't feel good, but it does help when meetings start at 6 o'clock, because it does mean that I can possibly join meetings at 10 to 7 or 7 o'clock. I have to bus all the way from, one side of Coventry to Nuneaton, and that takes the time. We've been talking about public transport tonight. And like I say, meetings that start at 5 or the planning applications that start at 4 are, difficult to get to. And for people that do still work, it's incredibly hard. And we're not asking for much, just an hour later than usual. That also gives Joe Public, who's working, a chance to come to the meetings as well, and maybe we'll have a few more public people than we do come to the meetings. So I would, it would be very helpful for me as a local councillor to, instead of keep saying to I couldn't make that meeting, but somebody went, it doesn't sound good. But just an hour, if all the meetings started at 6 o'clock, I can understand when you have to go on site for planning applications, and I understand that. But 6 o'clock, even if people have to come late, is a lot easier than 5 o'clock. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Llewellyn. Councillor Elliott.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. I know that the meeting times have been well thought out, well debated over the years. There's been talk about travelling through rush hour, and I would just like to reiterate the point about how helpful virtual meetings are, and that helps the environment. I would like, I believe the reason that we're unable to continue with virtual meetings is due to government rules. Regarding people working and wanting to, or one person wanting to attend meetings at 6 p.m. so that she can work, lots of the OSP meetings attract young mums who want to come along and speak. 6 o'clock is not an efficient time for them. That's when they want to be getting their children to bed. So the times have been well thought out, but I just want to put a plea in that how helpful it is for so many people who may even be attending meetings this evening from areas other than Nuneaton, who knows. But virtual meetings, I think, need to be looked at, if for no other reason than for the environment. And also for those of us who live in Nuneaton and wish to be county councillors, travelling to Warwick for meetings that start at 10 a.m. and last all day, virtual meetings are a useful way of avoiding adding to that rush hour traffic too. So I just want to put in a plea, can we look at virtual meetings in the future? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Elliott. Councillor Hancock.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Perhaps we'd be better discussing what time meetings finish rather than what time they start. But Madam Mayor, you know, the example of full council meetings, you know, the performances we have of late, maybe we ought to shift the full council meetings to a daytime meeting, because I think it's a bit unreasonable to expect people to be about at 11 o'clock at night in a meeting. But Madam Mayor, the Tories talk about the timings of meetings and how it affects people. They want it at 6 o'clock because of people working in offices and doing office hours, 8 till 4, 9 till 5. I'm sorry, Madam Mayor, but because of the Tories, that nobody has a regular shift anymore. Very few people have a regular shift. They're expected to turn up to work when they get a phone call, some of them. And I'm sorry, you know, we have had this discussion over the years, and it's one of those things that you can't make it suit everybody. It's simple as that. You've got to try and get to some sort of compromise. We have to consider those things. Our residents are doing shift workers, the shift workers, people that are doing other odd hours, not even doing a full shift maybe. Actually, Councillor Elliott raised a point that I had written down. There's also the people at home with young children that have got to get those children to bed. So what do you do about that? They might be better suited for a daytime meeting, perhaps when the children are at school or in nursery. Lots of people, particularly in our outlying areas, don't have a bus service or extremely limited. And I'm not talking about, you know, it's most of the areas around it. So you can't do that. Yes, maybe the answer to that is virtual meetings. So tonight's thing, now this, you know, I think it's largely just another delaying tactic for the meeting, Madam Mayor. Just finally, I know we're speaking on the amendment, but it'll save me talking again, is Councillor Evans spoke about scrutiny panels. He well knows that you can't be whipped on scrutiny. If he's got some sort of evidence that we are whipped when we go to scrutiny, then he ought to get up front and report it to the monitoring officer or to the police or to whoever he thinks it should be. But as usual, he's scaremongering. And just finally, Madam Mayor, in relation to committee timings and Councillor Condacourt speaking about the planning committee, I have to say I did have that slight concern about shifting that one meeting, because what it's done now is reduce the timings from 3 weeks to 2 weeks. It's really difficult for planning officers to get their reports and stuff and to print in time for a meeting in 2 weeks. But it's one meeting, and you know, I guess officers would have to handle it. And Chair, I'm sorry, but that's my final point. We also have to have consideration for our staff as well about what times they're expected to work. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Hancock. Councillor Walmsley, you seconded the motion, so I will take you as the last speaker before I ask Councillor Jackson to give the right to reply to the amendment. Councillor Walmsley.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Well, I've heard some drivel in my time on this authority, but I think we're really starting to dig new barrels here tonight, aren't we? Let's take a couple of points and mop up, shall we? Let's start with parents and bedtimes. 5 o'clock's no better. That's right in the middle of dinner, and I think I'm probably the only I'd be happy to be stand corrected, but I think I'm the only councillor here with children, certainly at the end of the age of 3. And I can tell you 5 o'clock's smack bang in the middle of dinner. So the idea that actually helps somebody is complete and utter tosh. In addition to this, let's look at shift workers. If we're going to really start on this, the vast majority of shift workers are on staggered shifts, maybe 3 on, 2 off, or 3 days, 1 off, 2 nights, etc., etc. The patterns generally for shift workers are not fixed. So you're never going to be able to please all the people all the time. And frankly, the idea from Councillor Hancock's that we need to look at limiting times already, the democratic process, I'm afraid to tell him, takes as long as it takes. If he wants to be tucked up in bed with a cup of cocoa, he should stand down, shouldn't he, at this election coming up? He has the opportunity. If he doesn't want to carry on, feel free to say good night and walk off into the sunset. Let's be clear, the vast majority of people, as have already been said across our borough, across our country, do work that 9 to 5, 8 till 4, Monday to Friday pattern job. And that is evidenced very clearly by the road system whenever anybody wants to go anywhere, whether that be on a bus or on a car or bicycle or motorcycle, or even look at commuting on trains as somebody that did that for a long time. They are full and packed for those start times. That is when every single transport modelling authority, be that rail, be that road, will tell you that their busiest pressure on services is during that time. And that therefore fits with everything that's been said. And finally, the idea of staff at the authority, yeah, absolutely, we've got to have regard for that. Madam Mayor, I'm not happy. Somebody has just muted me. That is unacceptable, and I demand an investigation immediately and an apology.
I have absolutely no idea who has muted you, Councillor Walmsley. I didn't.
Well, then I wish to raise that this matter be referred to Audit and Standards for full investigation, Madam Mayor. It's not acceptable. We were assured that the change in way that this had been done would mean that councillors would not be able to be muted, and I have been muted by another councillor, probably from your own party, Madam Mayor, and it is not acceptable. This is a democratic process.
I second that. Let's refer this matter to the Audit and Standards Committee.
Councillor Walmsley, you have just made a very serious allegation against a member of this council muting you. You might like to recall on the incident that you spoke of when several Labour members were muted when they tried to speak. And I don't recall you then asking for a report to go anywhere when that happened. You have just made a serious accusation, Councillor Walmsley, and I would expect you to name the member that you are accusing.
Madam Mayor, I've been very clear. I request and move that this matter be referred to Audit and Standards for full investigation. It's not acceptable. If you want to whitewash that, Madam Mayor, then feel free to do so.
Walmsley, please do not keep talking over me. I will take your proposal separately after we have finished dealing with this item on the agenda. Thank you. Right, I'm taking no more speakers on this matter.
Can I finish my speech because I was muted partway through, Madam Mayor?
Finish, Councillor Wong.
No, I was muted partway through, as we've just discussed. I was coming finally to the matter of in relation to staff of this authority, and they do get very generous flexi time. And I think it's important that the democratic process takes as long as this democratic process takes. And that is a hugely important matter that is absolutely vital for the residents of our borough. And it is what they pay their council tax for. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Walmsley. Councillor Jackson, as the mover of the original proposal, you are allowed the right to reply.
Madam Mayor, nobody other than Councillor Condacor came to the Cabinet meeting where this timetable of meetings was considered. Nobody, as far as I'm aware, has made representation in regard to this in a timely manner, with the exception, and I'm going to say Councillor Condacor did make representation at Cabinet. Madam Mayor, if members are so aggrieved about the times of meetings, then they should raise this as perhaps an item for scrutiny at a working party and set one up to look at it and make formal recommendations. Tonight, I think it would be wholly inappropriate to actually change something that has been given lots of consideration by officers. I have a great deal of sympathy with Councillor Elliott's point about remote meetings. I think flexibility in this regard would be really helpful, certainly for members and indeed officers, But that is out of our control at the moment. I believe there is a High Court challenge to the government's decision. We will await the outcome of that. I don't know if it's yet been heard. But in the interim, Madam Mayor, it is sensible to have a working pattern of meetings going forwards for the next municipal year. And therefore, Madam Mayor, I shall be voting against the amendment. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Right, I have no further speakers. Could we, Simone, could you go to the vote, please?
Thank you. Recorded vote, please.
Noted. This is a vote on the amendment, just to be clear, and if members could turn their cameras on when they vote, if they are able to. Thank you. Councillor Beaumont.
Against.
Councillor Brinley Edwards, I don't believe is in the meeting. Councillor Brown.
For.
Councillor Croft.
For.
Councillor Daffin.
Against.
Councillor Doughty.
Against.
Councillor Elliott.
Against.
Councillor Evans.
For.
Councillor Gazane.
For.
Councillor Glass.
Against.
Councillor Golby.
For.
Councillor Gran.
For.
Councillor Gutteridge.
For.
Councillor Hancock.
Against.
Councillor Hocking.
Against.
Councillor Jackson.
Against.
Councillor Condacore.
Against.
Councillor Llewellyn Nash.
For.
Councillor Lloyd.
Against.
Councillor Longdon.
Against.
Councillor Pandare.
For.
Councillor Pandare, are you able to turn your camera on?
Yeah, okay, thank you. Yeah, for. Sorry.
Thank you.
For.
Thank you. Councillor Phillips.
Against.
Councillor Pomfret.
Against.
Councillor Rudkin.
Against.
Councillor A. Sargent.
Against.
Councillor J. Sargent.
Against.
Councillor J. Shepherd.
Against.
Councillor T. Shepherd.
Against.
Councillor Smith.
For.
Councillor Tandy.
Against.
Councillor Tromans.
For.
Councillor Walmsley.
For.
Councillor Watkins.
Against.
Councillor Wilson.
For.
That's lost, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. The amendment is lost. So we move to the substantive motion as proposed by Councillor Jackson. Is there anyone wishing to speak on the motion, substantive motion? See no one at the moment, so could we take the vote on the substantive motion, please? That is for the committee timetable as we have in front of us. Simone.
Thank you. Again, if you could indicate for or against, please. Councillor Beaumont.
For.
Councillor Brinley Edwards is absent. Councillor Brown.
Against.
Councillor Croft.
Against.
Councillor Daffin.
For.
Councillor Doughty.
For.
Councillor Elliott.
For.
Councillor Evans.
Against.
Councillor Gazane.
Against.
Are you able to turn your camera on, Councillor Gazane?
Yeah, I'll try again, 2 secs. You see me? Yeah, there you go. Against.
Councillor Glass?
For.
Councillor Golby?
Against.
Councillor Gran?
Against.
Councillor Gutteridge?
Against.
Councillor Hancox?
For.
Councillor Hocking? For. Councillor Jackson?
For.
Councillor Condacor?
Against.
Councillor Llewellyn-Nash?
Against.
Councillor Lloyd?
For.
Councillor Longdon?
For.
Councillor Pandare?
Against.
Councillor Phillips?
For.
Councillor Pomfret?
For.
Councillor Rudkin?
For.
Councillor A. Sargent?
For.
Councillor J. Sargent?
For.
Councillor J. Shepherd?
For.
Councillor T. Shepherd?
For.
Councillor Smith?
Against.
Councillor Tandy?
For.
Councillor Tromans?
Against.
Councillor Walmsley?
Against.
Councillor Watkins?
For.
Councillor Wilson?
Against.
Thank you. That's carried, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. The, the substantive motion is carried. I now need to move to the rather serious allegation that Councillor Walmsley has made and proposed. I believe that the issue of his allegation that his microphone was turned off during the meeting is referred to the Audit and Standards Committee. Is that correct, Councillor Walmsley?
Yes, for a full investigation, Madam Mayor. Yes, that's correct.
Thank
And I think
you.
that was seconded by Councillor Evans.
And yes, I was just going to call for a seconder, so that will be Councillor Evans. Councillor Hancock, did you wish to speak on that proposal?
I did, Chair, because I mean, I will accept whatever decision you've made, but I would have thought it's for the councillor to report anything to the monitoring officer. It isn't for us to have a vote on doing it.
Which would you be prepared, Councillor Walmsley, to make a report to the monitoring officer with a complaint that your camera was switched off during the debate? Sorry, your microphone was switched off.
No, Chair, because the Council is allowed to refer matters to relevant committees, and I believe that this is a relevant matter for Council to refer to the committee.
Okay, thank you. So we will continue. Councillor Longdon, do you wish to speak?
I do, Madam Mayor. I was about to say what Councillor Hancock just said. It's down to that individual councillor. If he'd got a complaint, I didn't even realise that his microphone had been off. I wouldn't know how to do it myself, being a bit of a dinosaur in that respect. But at the end of the day, I don't think his microphone actually went off. I think it's more like a glitch on his, if there was one, on his broadband. And I'm sure nobody wants to turn the mic off. We all hang on Councillor Walmsley's words, don't we? Me especially, because he's a gentleman that really does make certain comments about people. So at the end of the day, I should be voting against this because I think it's frivolous, it's a relative. He thinks something's happened to him that was deliberate, which I don't think. And if he's got a complaint, then go through a procedure and make your complaint and name somebody as well. That's the best way to do it, because I don't know how an investigation is going to go on. If an investigation doesn't find out who it is, then what's he going to do? He's just going to fester about it. So at the end of the day, it's a completely frivolous waste of time. So I'm going to vote against it.
Thank you, Councillor Longden. Councillor Evans. I have 3 more speakers after this. I don't intend to take any more. Councillor Evans.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, I seconded the recommendation that we refer this matter to the Audit and Standards Committee. I think it's an absolutely relevant matter, and I very much hope that whoever becomes chairman of the Audit and Standards Committee after the elections treats this matter with absolute urgency, because it's very serious. Councillor Longden, I'm happy to put on public record because I did see it, that the mute bar on the, so you'll be able to see it on the bottom left of the screen, did appear on Councillor Walmsley's profile when he was speaking. In fact, I know that because I was about to unmute myself to inform Councillor Walmsley that he had been muted, and then obviously he realised for himself. I think it's not on that councillors. I don't need to reserve my right to speak. If I don't have to, if I don't want to. If I want to speak, I can. And that's what I'm doing. If Councillor Tandid wanted to call me as a seconder there and then that's what she should have done. So I absolutely support this recommendation. It's a very serious matter, and no councillor should be silenced in their duties. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Evans, but I do need to remind you several of us were silenced previously. Councillor Sargent.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. I believe after that incident, the last incident, that the way it was set up was changed. Now I've noticed that we're all presenters, but I thought we were supposed to be attendees, so that couldn't happen. Can the officers just confirm that as presenters we can mute each other, or not?
Who do you want me to? Do you want to an office? Could you?
Yeah, currently in the meeting, all attendees are set up as presenters, which I do believe allows muting. So we are going to amend that in the break that we're planning to take after this item. So that won't be an issue going forward.
You're muted, Madam Mayor.
Sorry, Councillor Sargent, had you finished speaking? There seems to be something wrong with the system.
Sorry, here.
Simone?
I think if I leave, I can go in and try and do it.
Right, and before we move further
Manage
with this,
permissions.
Just one moment, Rebecca. Rather than everyone sitting waiting, I had planned to call an adjournment after this item had completed. So I will now call a 5-minute adjournment so that this matter can be considered. We will reconvene at 7:55. Thank you. got the screens back on. I haven't.
We are live, Madam Mayor.
I think you just clicked. There you go. Thank you, Rebecca, and thank you for what you've been doing during the adjournment. Right, we got to Councillor Brown. I believe you were the next speaker.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, at the time Councillor Walmsley was muted, he was in full flow with a very good speech on the timetable issue and summing up matters in a really excellent way. It's clear that person or persons unknown muted his microphone, and that it's within the Constitution that we can move that this is put straight to audit and standards. It's within the council's gift to do so. It's within the Constitution to do so.
Councillor Brown, that is exactly why I allowed the proposal to go forward. I was aware of that fact.
And I'm speaking to it, Madam Mayor. And for anybody to dismiss his concerns as frivolous, it is really poor form, quite frankly. We've had in the past councillors voting on behalf of each of these meetings. We've had other issues with shenanigans with people muting other councillors, and so this does need to be taken seriously. And I think it's right that we do take this straight forward as proposed. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Brown. Councillor Glass.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Thanks, Mayor. I see Councillor Brown has once again made a statement which is totally false. I don't know of anybody who was supposed to vote and somebody voted in their place. Perhaps he's got evidence that should come in front of us to say who did it and why they did it. There is also, I remember the Tory group laughing and joking when the mics were being muted, and then all of a sudden an old Soviet anthem come across and the red flag, and the Tory groups were all sitting there and they were laughing and various other things. And we were told then that somebody had voted when they weren't supposed to vote, etc., and it was going to go to a police matter. The police should be looked into it. I wonder if the Tory group actually did an internal audit of their own group to see who could have possibly did it, because I'm sure it wasn't one of us. But then again, I don't know. And in this matter, I don't know whether to vote for or against. I just think it's typical Tory tactics, which have gone on for the last couple of 3 years, spread everything out and take time after time after time in order to get one simple solution. So I'm in two minds, Madam Mayor, which way to vote for this, but I still haven't heard anything from what happened last time. Cheers.
Thank you, Councillor Glass. Councillor Jackson.
Madam Mayor, there is an easy way to resolve this. If councillors feel that something has happened in a meeting, they can make a formal complaint to the monitoring officer and it will be investigated. Madam Mayor, we've been discussing this now for quite some time. Can I suggest that you will consider whether or not we've had enough discussion on this? Madam Mayor, there is another solution. It can be referred to the monitoring officer by the councillor who has concerns. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
I think, Councillor Jackson, that would need an amendment to the proposal. No. Okay, well, we have been discussing this particular issue. Just a minute. So I intend to take Councillor Golby and then we will move to the vote on the proposal. Councillor Golby.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Yeah, just picking up on what Councillor Glass said, actually, Councillor Brown was quite correct in what he was saying. And there has actually been a report produced where the people involved do query themselves whether they did vote alternatively or not, let's just say. I'm happy to share that if he wants to read it. I have no problem with it. It was produced by our internal audit team, so you know, happy to email it to Councillor Glass should he wish to read it. There's not really much more I can say on that matter, but I think for Councillor Glass to try and discredit Councillor Brown like that is actually quite unfounded. So that needs to be put on record. Thank you.
My personal view is that I think there's been quite a few people who have been discredited this evening because of comments that have been made on this item. But we will move to the vote. The proposal is that the matter be referred to the Audit and Standards, the matter of Councillor Walmsley's microphone being switched off during the course of the debate, that the matter be resolved by being sent along to the Audit and Standards Committee in due course. Could you take the vote, please, Simone?
Recorded vote.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Again, if you could please indicate for or against the proposal. Councillor Beaumont.
Against.
Councillor Brindley Edwards, I believe, is still absent. Councillor Brown.
For.
Councillor Croft.
For.
Councillor Daffin.
Against.
Councillor Doughty.
Against.
Councillor Elliott.
Against.
Councillor Evans.
For.
Councillor Gazane.
For.
Councillor Glass.
Against.
Councillor Golby.
For.
Councillor Gran.
For.
Councillor Gutteridge.
For.
Councillor Hancox.
Against.
Councillor Hocking.
Against.
Councillor Jackson.
Against.
Councillor Condacore.
For.
Councillor Llewellyn Nash.
For.
Councillor Lloyd.
Against.
Councillor Longdon.
Against. Unwhipped.
Councillor Pandare.
For.
Councillor Phillips.
Against.
Councillor Pomfret.
Against.
Councillor Rudkin.
Against.
Councillor A. Sargent.
For.
Councillor J. Sargent.
For.
Councillor J. Shepherd.
Against.
Councillor T. Shepherd.
Against.
Councillor Smith.
For.
Councillor Tandy.
Against.
Councillor Tromans.
For.
Councillor Walmsley.
For.
Councillor Watkins.
Against.
Councillor Wilson.
For.
That's lost, Madam Mayor.
The
1716.
proposal is lost, and I suggest that if Councillor Walmsley wishes to continue with this matter, he reports it to the Audit and Standards, to the monitoring officer himself. Thank you. So we now have finished that particular item. We are moving on to, when I've sorted myself out, agenda item 10, which is the two reports from the internal overview and scrutiny panel and the external overview and scrutiny panel. Councillor Glass, would you like to move your report from the internal overview and scrutiny panel, please?
I formally do that, Madam Mayor, and thank everybody who's involved over the year. It's been exciting at times, and we've covered many topics, and thanks to members of the public who turned up to speak on something that they feel passionate about. So I so move.
Thank you, Councillor Glass. Councillor Longden, would you like to move the report of the external overview and scrutiny committees, please?
I'll get my camera on. Thank you, Madam Mayor. I formally move this report and thank you everybody for their participation and members of the public. I would add that at the last external overview and scrutiny panel last week, we did add an item to the work programme, which was in terms of CAMS, getting CAMS to come to the meeting to explain in particular why why the assessment time for children with special needs or some particular problem has gone out now from 2 years to 4 years. Originally it went from 1 to 2 years. Now it's doubled again to 4 years, and that is not on, particularly at that time of life when they need this special thing. When special education needs should be giving them a better start in life. So that will be coming. That's come on the programme. The committee agreed to that.
Thank you, Councillor Longden. Does anyone have any questions? And I would remind members that they are questions. The items are not for debate. Does any member have any questions that they wish to ask? Except that hang on a minute. Right, Councillor Brown.
Beg your pardon, Madam Mayor, legacy hand.
Oh, I'm very okay, thank you. Councillor Condacourt.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. I have 2 points, one for each of the scrutiny panels. On the internal scrutiny panel, which I enjoyed some of the time on, we discussed the grounds maintenance contract, and one of the issues we had is the part of the contract now that does things like trees has been taken out of the Glendale contract. So maybe the chair would comment on going forward how we make sure we monitor and get performance out of our smaller subcontractors who aren't actually within the Glendale contract. This is particularly important as at the moment we're felling an awful large number of trees. I think it's something beginning with N who's doing it, and that's outside our scrutiny because it's not Glendale. So that's for the internal scrutiny. For the external scrutiny, 10 years ago, we had the planning application started on the Wenton Road, and on the scrutiny panel, it says from 2019, we've been looking at primary care, and it's absolutely essential that we get the issue of providing GPs sorted. This has been rumbling on, and the scrutiny panel has failed to effectively sort it out and provide scrutiny. Will the scrutiny panel actually sort us out what's happening with primary care on the new estates, particularly because we've now approved one on Gulf Drive, which means we've not just got the Weddington problems, but we've got the Whitestone problems with GP. So can the scrutiny chair tell us where we're going with GP provision? Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Does either Councillor, did you say internal or external, Councillor Condacourt? Sorry.
The ground maintenance is internal and the GP surgeries is external.
So it's both of them. So Councillor Glass, could you answer the question on the internal panel, please?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. The council actually makes a good point, and I'm sure the officers are hearing that, and that's something that should be tidied up, and there should be a report somewhere in the pipelines of officers. I'm asking officers to make sure that that comes in front of a scrutiny panel, even though I won't be there next year. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Glass. Councillor Evans, your question, please.
Chair,
Yes,
there's a question to me, Councillor.
Oh, I apologise, Councillor Longden. Yes, there was. I apologise, Councillor Evans. Did you want to reply to the to the other question.
I do, Madam Chair. The question of GP surgery has been a vexed question for many years. There's certainly not enough GPs within the system, and they were getting less. I think the CCG have been looking at this to try and get other GPs on board. Buildings have been erected and not used in some places, and that's a travesty. So yes, it will be an ongoing issue. It will be down to the CCG, really, where those surgeries will go. It's not down to this council, although this council can make representations, and I would suggest that it stays on the work programme. I don't think it's been taken off, actually, and they keep raising it. But the issue around GPs now is around their contracts, and certainly I think there's 48 now gone to a private American company in London, and that's likely to be spreading across the country. So it's going to be a difficult one, not just at the moment, but certainly for years to come, I think. So it's going to stay, and Councillor Condicle will have to keep making those representations until it gets settled one way or the other.
Thank you, Councillor Longden. Councillor Evans, again, my apologies for calling you too early. Could you ask your question, please?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. My question is to the chair of the internal panel. I would ask the same question to Councillor Longden, but to be fair to the chap, he's only been in the job for a few months. But yes, to Councillor Glass, it's enshrined in the council's constitution that one of the responsibilities of a scrutiny chair is to represent the committee at cabinet meetings. That involves actively turning up and speaking on items. Could you tell me how many times in the last 3 years you have attended cabinet meetings as chair of the committee in order to represent the views of the committee? And my final question is, depending on what the answer is to his first question, of course, what do you feel, Councillor Glass, that you have actually achieved as chair of the internal panel since 2018, so 3 years? What do you believe you have achieved, and do you believe as chair that you've provided value for money for taxpayers in the Nuneaton and Bedworth? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Evans. Councillor Glass.
Thanks, Chair. Madam Mayor, I'll take the first. Oops, the camera was there and it's gone again. There's I shall take the first one first. I've only actually did about 3 or 4 appearances in front of the cabinet over that period of years, and I'm trying to think of other occasions. But part of my problem was that as people are well aware that I have an ongoing health problem, and that's why I'm standing down at this election. So during perhaps periods of time within that time, perhaps I just wasn't up to it, and I shall put that down to my bad health and my continued bad health. So my apologies if the councillor thinks that I should have did any more, but I did make representations on various occasions. And secondly, I think that we've covered quite a lot of things during that period of time, and including the ground maintenance, which was always a case about cutting grass and various other things and doing this, that and the other. And we've noticed that the last couple of 3 times when the contractors have actually come up, there's been plaudits. So I think that the representation that has been made in order to make the contract even better than what it actually was done through the scrutiny panel. So I'm rather pleased. With that. With that, just one thing. We were talking about what was happening in the cemeteries, and we're talking about loads of other things that we've tried to do policy-wise and change for the better. So I think overall, although I still think that there's just a disconnect between the cabinet and the current overview and scrutiny system, but I think it was working up to a point, but I do believe it could work better. I hope that answers the questions.
Madam Mayor, I thank Councillor Glass for his response. If I could just repeat my second and third question again. My second question was, what do you personally feel that you have achieved as chair of the scrutiny panel since 2018? And my final question was, do you believe that you have provided value for money to taxpayers in the Nuneaton and Bedworth in your position?
Say yes.
In both occasions, yes. I think that I've did the job as chair of the committee. I've tried to chair it as impartially as possible. So I think that's up. That was up to me, and I've did the best as I can. And yes, I do think that the people, the ratepayers of the Nuneaton and Bedworth have got their value for money. Thank you for your question.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Glass. Could you have your question, Councillor Walmsley?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This question is for the chair of the External Overview and Scrutiny, and for the record, the committee of which I am vice chair. No doubt the chair is aware of the Constitution, section 422(2). And can I ask, therefore, why at the last meeting he refused to hear a comment from a member of the public who had requested in good time and order, who refused to hear their statements? That's my question. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Walmsley. Councillor Longden.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. He'll have to refresh my memory because I have no recollection of what he's talking about.
Would you like to explain, Councillor Walmsley?
With your permission, thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, this is in relation to the statement submitted by Mr. Margrave for a request to speak on the forward plan item of our panel last meeting that took place last week, of which he was refused his democratic right to do so, which is enshrined in our Constitution.
Councillor Longden, do you wish to reply?
I still have no recollection of this, but from what Councillor Walmsley just said, it was probably not an item on the agenda of that committee, and therefore it would not have been in order for that to be asked, because it just wasn't there. There's no provision for it.
Madam Mayor, if the I'd be happy for a written answer if he would like to go away and look at that, and for it to be recorded in the minutes. If Councillor Longden feels that would be better for him, if he wants to go away and restudy any notes that he may have, I'm more than happy for that, as long as it would go in the minutes to us.
I would remind you, Councillor Walmsley, that the agenda always states that any questions have to be relevant to the items on the agenda. So perhaps, Councillor Longden, you might wish to speak to the committee clerk and to Brent, and to ask the question as to the question and the reasons why it wasn't, and then provide all of us with the answer to that, Councillor Longden, if you're happy to do that.
No, I'm not happy to do that, Chair. I'd have no recollection of what this went on, but from what has just been said, the item was not on the agenda, therefore it was not allowed, and that's as simple as that. I'm sorry, but if that's what it was, I've heard rumours since that it was about phlebotomy service, and I've looked at it because I was expecting the question to come again, but it certainly hasn't come again as far as I'm concerned, and I have an answer for ready for any questions on the phlebotomy service, but we haven't got an item on this agenda item for that. So I'm not going to do anything about it, Madam Mayor.
Clearly, he doesn't want to represent value for money like the last chair, then.
Thank you.
Well, that's up to you, Councillor Walmsley.
I'm not having debates across the room. Sorry.
I hope you go where you should do.
Thank you. Councillor Jane Sargent. Do you want to ask your question?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Mine is on page 46 for the internal overview and scrutiny. I actually stood in for Councillor Andy Sargent, and it's got here that a report to the town centre and marketing manager will consider the possibility of bringing essential market stalls to some areas within the borough and the town centre, and the marketing manager will respond directly to Councillor Jane Sargent regarding the changes to Bedworth Market, because it was brought to that meeting that they were going to have to remove their vehicles and move to park behind the Bedworth Civic Hall, which wasn't suitable. Unfortunately, obviously COVID has hit over a time and things have changed, so it's now maybe essential and the markets were closed. But I just want it on record that I have not received anything from the marketing manager at all about any of the items that I brought up that day. And the only thing that I've heard from him is that we need to be a business in Attleborough before we can have the markets on market land, on council land. Sorry. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Sargent. Councillor Glass.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for that, Councillor Sargent. I wasn't aware that you never got a reply. So as one of my last actions, shall we say, I shall drop an email and see if we can get a reply to you as soon as possible.
Thank you very much, Councillor Glass.
Thank you. Councillor Wilson, do you have your question, please?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. My question is to the chair of the Internal Overview and Scrutiny Panel. Reading the report, it appears that there were a total during this year of 8 recommendations made by the panel, mostly to Cabinet. I think there's 1 to Council from memory. All of which, incidentally, were moved by Conservative members on the panel. What does the chair feel can be done to improve participation in overview and scrutiny by all members? And could he give a view as to why it only appears that Internal has made any recommendations to improvements of services, whereas External has made a grand total of no recommendations, according to the report which has been put before us? Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Excuse me. Thank you, Councillor Wilson. Councillor Glass.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. There's, I think it's important to realise, although the councillor, I can't turn around and say that the Tory councillors don't have good ideas. On occasion to do, and on different occasions, this is a recommendation from the whole panel. So the panel itself votes. So collectively, Labour, Greens, Independents vote together in order to take recommendations to the Cabinet. And I think as the 8 items, as the councillor says, is that the recommendations were approved by the Cabinet. So I think that that was a good step on the way forward. And as I said before, I thank everybody who took part in making those decisions. It's made the borough a lot better, I think. Thanks, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Glass. Councillor Evans, do you have a different question that you want to ask to the one you asked previously?
Yes, I do, Madam Mayor. I'd like to ask the chair of the Internal Overview and Scrutiny Panel. Over the last 3 years, when he speaks at full council, he's made a number of comments about Warwickshire County Council and all that. One of the things that Warwickshire County Council, in my opinion, does very well.
Ask your question, please. This is not a debate.
As I explained, you have to give a preamble before asking a question.
It is a question.
So
Not a preamble.
So one of the things that Warwickshire County Council does very well in its scrutiny system is getting portfolio holders and cabinet members to attend meetings for question and answer sessions. Could I ask Councillor Glass, during his tenure as chair of the Internal Overview and Scrutiny Panel, why has he never insisted that portfolio holders attend the meetings so that scrutiny members can hold the executive members to account?
Councillor Glass.
I shall repeat it. Well, in fact, should I repeat it again? There's if there's a recommendation to cabinet, and I believe that let's say if there's something goes to cabinet, and the cabinet wish me to explain the reasons why that should be coming to cabinet, I have done that in the past. But as I said before, and I shall say it again, without keep going on and on and on and on about it, I'm not interested in what the county council does, because they work a different system, and I don't think their system is up to scratch, shall we say. If the system, the overview scrutiny system is going to be changed in the future, by all means change it. I shan't be there to help or assist or hinder those changes. So that's my answer.
Thank you for your response, Councillor Glass. With respect, the answer from Councillor Glass did not answer my question. My original question to Councillor Glass.
Councillor Evans, please do not speak when I am speaking. You have had your answer to your question.
No, I haven't.
There is no supplementary question.
I'm not asking supplementary. My question is a completely different question.
I'm not prepared to continue for you to keep constantly asking question after question, Councillor Evans.
That's our job. That's what we're paid to do.
Evans, please do not take this to be a joke. This is not a joke. It is a very formal council meeting. Thank you. Thank you. Now,
that's our job, to ask questions, to scrutinise.
You asked your question. You were given your answer, Councillor Evans. That is the purpose of this report, and I am not going to have you continually trying to butt in and ask further questions when I've told you you've already asked your question. So I am going to move. I am going to move that the report be noted. Is there a seconder for that proposal, please? Could you put your camera off, please, Councillor Evans?
I'll second
got my hand up to speak.
Madam Mayor, Councillor Pomfret.
Thank you, Councillor Pomfret. Could you take the vote, please, Councillor Simone? Can you not take your camera down, Councillor Evans? Thank you.
We're going to the vote, so you have to have your camera on.
Well, yes, when your name is called, Councillor Evans. Simone.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councillor Evans, can you turn your camera off until I get to you, please, just so it's easier for me to see those that are voting? Thank you. Councillor Beaumont, please indicate for or against the proposal. Councillor Beaumont.
For.
Councillor Brindley Edwards is absent. Councillor Brown.
Against.
Councillor Croft.
Against.
Councillor Daffin.
For.
Councillor Doughty.
For.
Councillor Elliott.
For.
Councillor Evans.
Against, because I wasn't allowed to ask questions.
Councillor Gazane.
Against.
Councillor Glass.
For, and I answered the best I could.
Councillor Golby.
Against.
Councillor Gran.
Against.
Councillor Gutteridge.
Against.
Councillor Hancox.
For.
Councillor Hocking.
For.
Councillor Jackson.
For.
Councillor Condacore.
For.
Councillor Llewellyn Nash.
Against.
Councillor Lloyd.
For.
Councillor Longdon.
For.
Councillor Pandare.
Against.
Councillor Phillips.
4.
Councillor Pomfret,
4.
Councillor Rudkin,
4.
Councillor A. Sargent,
Against.
Councillor J. Sargent,
Or against, sorry, against.
Councillor J. Shepherd,
For.
Councillor T. Shepherd,
4.
Councillor Smith,
Against.
Councillor Tandy,
4.
Councillor Tromans,
Against.
Councillor Walmsley,
Against.
Councillor Watkins,
4.
and Councillor Wilson.
Against.
That's carried, Madam Mayor.
The proposal is carried. We will move on to agenda item 11, 11A. There are 3 parts to this item. Agenda 11A. Councillor Jackson, can I invite you to move the recommendation set out in the report?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm pleased to do so.
Is there a seconder for the proposal?
Councillor Beaumont, seconding.
Councillor Beaumont. Is there any member who wishes to speak on this item? Councillor Condacourt.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. Cabinet is the most important body we have on the council, effectively, because a lot of the day-to-day decisions and some massive decisions, like the new hotel we're building for quite a lot of money, all go through Cabinet. So I do think it's important that as many people who can take part in Cabinet meetings. I have, over the last 15 years, taken part more than anyone else in Cabinet meetings. And I really disagree with the idea that it's only the opposition leader of the biggest group that can actually be invited. The county council has quite open and wonderfully diverse discussions at the cabinet meetings, and I think the same system would benefit greatly at the Nuneaton and Bedworth Borough Council. A lot of our greatest mistakes have been because we haven't discussed things enough at the cabinet meeting. The climbing wall, the depot, all sorts of things like that. If we actually have more thinking and talking at the decision where it's taken at cabinet, particularly because we don't have call-ins very often at this council, it helps. So I would like to have this recommendation amended that opposition group leaders should be invited to the cabinet. I think that would be far more equitable. I think the people who vote for the Greens and the Independents should have their voice at cabinet just as much as those who vote Labour. And this change in the constitution is going to be for a long while, not just for this next year when we are likely to have a Conservative administration, but also for the year after, when who knows what sort of administration we have, how big the independent group is, how big the Green group is. There is so much uncertainty in politics. To actually enshrine the two-party system into the protocol for cabinet meetings seems bizarre, and it does work so well. I mean, in other places where group leaders, you obviously don't want the whole council going to cabinet meetings and having a debate, but I really do think the Independent and the Green group, as at the moment, hopefully I'm a group next year, can actually be at cabinet and take part in the discussions. I think it would save the taxpayer an awful lot of money, particularly like the climbing wall mistake, if actually we had more debate and we weren't actually confined to speaking for 3 minutes and then we couldn't reply to the issues raised. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Condacourt. A little confused. I appreciate you mentioned the independent group that are a group, but you yourself are not actually the leader of a group, only being one person. But I will take forward your proposal. Is there a seconder for that proposal?
Seconded, and the sergeant.
Just one moment, please. Are there any speakers to the amendment, please? I see none. So we will move to the amendment, which is that all group leaders are invited to attend and speak at cabinet meetings. Could you call the vote, please, Simone?
Thank you. Again, if you could indicate for or against the amendment, please. Councillor Beaumont.
Against.
Councillor Brindley Edwards is absent. Councillor Brown.
Against.
Councillor Croft.
Against.
Councillor Daffin.
Against.
Councillor Doughty.
Against. Can you hear me?
Yeah, if you just repeat that, please, Councillor
Against.
Doughty. Thank you. Councillor Elliott.
Against.
Councillor Evans.
Against.
Councillor Gazane.
For.
Councillor Glass.
Against.
Councillor Golby.
Against.
Councillor Grant.
Against.
Councillor Gutteridge.
Against.
Councillor Hancock.
Against.
Councillor Hocking.
Against.
Councillor Jackson.
Against.
That might be for the best, actually, because I won't really have anything to do up here after the week after next.
Councillor Gran, could you mute, please? Councillor Condacor.
For, and can you record my vote, please? Thank you.
Councillor Llewellyn-Nash.
Against.
Councillor Lloyd.
Against.
Councillor Longden.
I can't get my camera on. It's I'm against.
Councillor Pandare.
I've got it.
Against.
Councillor Phillips.
Against.
Councillor Pomfret.
Against.
Councillor Rudkin.
Against.
Councillor A. Sargent.
For.
Councillor J. Sargent.
For.
Councillor J. Shepherd.
Against.
Councillor T. Shepherd.
Against.
Councillor Smith.
Against.
Councillor Tandy.
Against.
Councillor Tromans.
Against.
Councillor Walmsley.
Against.
Councillor Watkins.
Against.
Councillor Wilson.
Against.
That's lost, Madam Mayor.
Amendment is lost, so we move to the substantive motion as moved by Councillor Jackson. Do I have any speakers? Just 1 minute. No. Okay. Could you take the vote on the substantive motion, please, Simone?
Thank you. Again, please indicate for or against the substantive motion, please. Councillor Beaumont.
For.
Councillor Brindley Edwards is absent. Councillor Brown.
For.
Councillor Croft.
For.
Councillor Daffin.
For.
Councillor Doughty.
For.
Councillor Elliott.
For.
Councillor Evans.
For.
Councillor Gazane.
For.
Councillor Glass.
For.
Councillor Golby.
For.
Councillor Gran.
4.
Councillor Gutteridge.
4.
Councillor Hancock.
4.
Councillor Hocking. Councillor Hocking, I think we may have just lost Councillor Hocking. 4. Thank you. Councillor Jackson.
4.
Councillor Condacore.
But against, and can you record my vote, please?
Councillor Llewellyn-Nash. Councillor Llewellyn-Nash, you're muted.
Sorry about that. 4.
Councillor Lloyd.
4.
Councillor Longdon.
4.
Councillor Pandare.
4.
Can I ask all members to mute unless you're speaking, please? There is quite a bit of interference. Councillor Phillips.
4.
Councillor Pomfret.
4.
Councillor Rudkin.
4.
Councillor A. Sargent.
Against.
Councillor J. Sargent.
Against.
Councillor J. Shepherd.
4. 4.
Councillor T. Shepherd. 4. Councillor Smith.
4.
Councillor Tandy.
4.
Councillor Tromans.
4.
Councillor Walmsley.
4.
Councillor Watkins.
4.
Councillor
4.
Wilson.
4.
Thank you. That's carried, Madam Mayor.
That is, that proposal is carried. So we move to agenda item 11B, 1, little I. And as chair of the Audit and Standards Committee, I move the recommendation that I'll start again. I move that the recommendation that the Constitution be amended accordingly. Is there a seconder for that proposal?
I'll second that, Madam Mayor.
Thank you.
John Beaumont.
Thank you. Right. Is there any member wishing to speak? I see no one wishing to speak, so I will move straight to the vote. Simone, please. No, in fact, because there was no member wishing to speak, I'm going to say, if there is anyone who wishes to vote against this proposal, could you please show? Except I've lost my... I'll deal with the extension of standing orders when I've taken this vote. There seems to be no dissent, so that proposal is carried. Could you just wait one moment? I'll move to 11B2. I will take the proposal in just a minute, which is and I move the recommendation that the Constitution be amended accordingly. Is there a seconder for 11B2?
I'll second that, Madam Mayor. John Beaumont.
Thank you. Is there any member wishing to speak? I see no one wishing to... Oh, sorry, Councillor Condacore.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. I'll be quick because we've got the 3-hour time limit. I'm really keen on this protocol, and we do these things in a non-political way, like photo opportunities, etc. And on page 80, it makes it quite clear that the council invites ward members to things like photo opportunities when we get works done. And I'm most pleased that Councillor Jackson, when she was chair of the Housing Committee, did invite me when we got the cladding put on at Carisbrooke. So there, the protocol worked quite well. But more recently, there's been improvements to the flood defences at Cleary Gardens, and I wasn't even informed or invited. So I support this guidance, but it actually needs to always happen, and there needs to be some comeback if it doesn't. So I'll be voting in favour of the social media guidance and media protocol, but I'll also be expecting the high standard, which, to be fair to Councillor Jackson, we had when she was the housing chair, to be extended to whoever is the next chair of housing. Because I say it's really important that when we do improve our council housing, all the local members can actually be working together on it, and it isn't a who can get in the photo first. These things should be cross-party, which is why we have the media guideline. Thank you.
Is there anyone else wishes to speak on this item? I see no other speakers, so I will move. Just one moment. No. Okay, so I'm not going to take a formal vote unless I see, is there any dissent to this item? I see none, so the proposal is agreed. I will now move to the point that was made in the chat, which was from Councillor Hancock's, saying, I move an extension of standing orders to allow completion of business. Is there a seconder for that proposal, please?
Madam Mayor, I'd like to second proposal to extend to 10 o'clock.
Okay.
To allow us to proceed.
Sorry, could you repeat that, Councillor Tromans? I've got an awful backlash at the moment. Could whoever move the
That's all right, Madam Mayor. I was just saying I'm happy to second an extension until 10 o'clock for us to carry on.
Okay, is there an amendment to that proposal?
Madam Mayor.
I can't get.
But Madam Mayor, I'm sorry, that wasn't seconding my proposal. That was an amendment. My proposal is for till completion of business.
Yes, it was. Sorry, Councillor Hancock's did. So is there a seconder for Councillor Hancock's proposal that there is an extension to allow the completion of business?
Seconded, Councillor Lloyd.
Right, thank you. Is there any amendment to that proposal? I hear none. So therefore,
sorry, Madam Mayor, as I said before, I'll amend it then. We should extend till 10 o'clock, I think, as you have done in the past few meetings.
there is an amendment that we move, that we extend standing orders to 10 o'clock. Is there a seconder for that proposal?
Seconded, Councillor Evans.
Thank you. I'm not going, this is a procedural vote, so I am going to move to the vote, asking for, just excuse me 1 minute. Simone, could you do the vote on the amendment, please?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councillor Gazzain, could you just turn your camera off, please, until I get to you? I think it's still on. Thank you. So if you could please indicate for or against the amendment, please. Councillor Beaumont.
Against.
Councillor Brindley Edwards is absent. Councillor Brown.
On the amendment, for.
Councillor Croft.
For.
Councillor Daffin.
Against.
Councillor Doughty.
Against.
Councillor Elliott.
Against.
Councillor Evans.
For.
Councillor Gazane.
4.
Councillor Glass.
Against.
Councillor Golby.
4.
Councillor Gran.
4.
Councillor Gutteridge.
4.
Councillor Hancox.
Against.
Councillor Hocking.
Against.
Councillor Jackson.
Against.
Councillor Condacore.
Against.
Councillor Llewellyn Nash.
4.
Councillor Lloyd.
Against.
Councillor Longdon.
Against.
Councillor Pandare.
4.
Councillor Phillips.
Against.
Councillor Pomfret.
Against.
Councillor Rudkin.
Against.
Councillor A. Sargent.
Against.
Councillor J. Sargent.
Against.
Councillor
Oh,
J.
so-
Shepherd.
Against.
Councillor T. Shepherd.
Against.
Councillor Smith.
4.
Councillor Tandy.
Against.
Councillor Tromans.
4.
Councillor Walmsley.
4.
Councillor Watkins.
Against.
Councillor Wilson.
4.
That's lost, Madam Mayor. Do you wish me to take the vote now for the substantive motion?
Amendment was
The
lost. We will be taking the vote for the proposal from Councillor Hancox. Please, Simone.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Again, please indicate for or against the substantive motion. Councillor Beaumont.
4.
Councillor Brinley Edwards is absent. Councillor Brown.
Against.
Councillor Croft.
Against.
Councillor Daffin.
4.
Councillor Doughty.
4.
Councillor Elliott.
4.
Councillor Evans.
I think I might vote against this one. Yes, against.
Councillor Gazane.
Against.
Councillor Glass.
4.
Councillor Golby.
Against.
Councillor Gran.
Against.
Councillor Gutteridge.
Against.
Councillor Hancox.
4.
Councillor Hocking. 4. Councillor Jackson.
4.
Councillor Condacore.
I think we've got 3 hours, so I actually think the meeting should end, but I'm against. Thank you.
Councillor Llewellyn Nash.
Against.
Councillor Lloyd.
4.
Councillor Longdon.
4. And the irony of this is, well,
Councillor Pandare.
Against.
Councillor Phillips.
4.
Councillor Pomfret.
4.
Councillor Rudkin.
4.
Councillor A. Sargent.
4.
Councillor J. Sargent.
4.
Councillor J. Shepherd.
4.
Councillor T. Shepherd.
4.
Councillor Smith.
Against.
Councillor Tandy.
4.
Councillor Tromans. Councillor Troman.
Can you see me now? Yeah. Against, but it's gone.
Yeah,
over 3 hours.
yes, we have. We're a minute over, and you did delay giving your reply. Could you continue with the vote, please?
Councillor Walmsley.
I'd like some legal advice whether my vote now is legal or not, because we've passed the 3 hour mark already, and there's a guillotine.
A couple of minutes ago.
Well, you have a choice now. You either vote on this, or I will move a further amendment that this meeting finishes now.
Madam Mayor, the motion was moved. The motion was moved prior to 9 o'clock.
The motion was moved prior to 9 o'clock. We will continue with the vote. I am not going to put up with this sort of childish behaviour coming from some members who are trying to delay a vote. Could you please, Simone, I will not be interrupted. Simone, could you please take the vote? Continue with the vote. You've got to Councillor Troman's, I believe.
The voting needs to stop now.
Could I ask you to continue with the vote, please? I am chairing this meeting. Simone, could you continue with the vote, please?
Councillor Walmsley.
I will give a indication to vote on the basis that actually that I understand I've asked for legal advice to check my vote is legal, but I will issue a vote on what I believe it should be on the basis that it is legal, because that's something I would like clarification on. However, I am against.
Councillor Watkins.
For.
Councillor Wilson.
Against.
Thank you.
I don't think it's unreasonable to request legal advice.
That's carried, Madam Mayor.
Councillor, Mr. Richardson, I believe this proposal was put forward before the time was allocated. Could you give me some advice, please?
Yes, Madam Mayor. Constitution already.
You're muted, Madam Mayor.
I'm not going to put up with constant interruptions when I am speaking. I am informed that the vote is not valid. I am not prepared to accept the time wasting that has happened in this meeting, so I am suspending this meeting now, and the items left on, I will move a suspension of this meeting, and the items that are left on this meeting will be discussed at a later date. Am I correct in doing that, Councillor? Mr. Richardson?
Well, Madam Mayor, the meeting automatically is adjourned, so you don't need to move it.
Oh, right.
It has automatically adjourned.
Okay, right, the meeting, you heard what I said, I was wrong. Mr. Richardson is telling me that the meeting was automatically adjourned at 9 o'clock. Thank you. So the meeting is now adjourned. Could you switch off the...
Just so you couldn't get to the notice of motions. You've abandoned your own so you wouldn't get to B. Wonderful people, aren't you? Very caring, very sharing. Look at you, laughing your heads off. I don't think it's funny at all, Councillor Golby. I'm glad you do.
I'd like to respond.
That's how much you care about the health service and health service workers. None of you care about anybody else but yourselves.
Please, could